Hello folks, this is Mike, PC31 the Vinyl Policeman. I had such a good month in April picking up vinyl and CDs that I've had to stretch this to a part 2. I like to try and keep the videos a bit snappy now and under 15 minutes. So as I say, I've stretched to a part 2. I'll put a link to part 1 below just in case you want to see it and you haven't seen it yet, because I did pick up some really good stuff. First thing in this part is I picked up Glenn Matlock's Consequences Coming. This album came out just over a week ago, right at the tail end of April. And Glenn Matlock, as we all know, is one of the founding members of the Pistols, co-wrote all the tracks, virtually all the tracks on Nevermind the Bollocks, but in lots and lots of bands, made lots of solo albums. And as I say, this is his latest, Consequences Coming. A raucous and rocking new album from Sex Pistols bassist songwriter, contains Head on a Stick and Consequences Coming limited edition orange vinyl, which I managed to pick up. I also picked up the CD as well, because I'm seeing him on Tuesday, tomorrow night, and he's doing a Q&A. He's going to do an acoustic set and some signings. So I thought, well, he's obviously going to play a lot of this album, so I'll get the CD and play it a lot in the car and see what I think. And I really like it. I mean, it's raucous and rocking. Yeah, it is actually. It is a straightforward rock and roll album, bit bluesy, very Stones during the Jimmy Miller period, kind of early 70s. As I say, just lots of straightforward rock and roll tracks, but really strong choruses. Good performances. You got Earl Slick on the album, who is a fantastic guitarist who played with Bowie and John Lennon. You've got Norman Watt Roy, who he was on the Blockheads, played on the Sandinista album, The Clash, and I saw him actually a couple of times with Wilco Johnson, and he's a fantastic bass player. So yeah, I'm pleased with this album. It's really good. I should continue to play it. Meet the man tomorrow night, and I'm sure it'll be great. Second one I wanted to show you was from, although it was a rock and roll album, from another punk originators, the Stranglers. And this is their 15th album from 2004, Norfolk Coast. Haven't owned this one before, either on vinyl or CD, but I picked this up as a reissue during the month. An amazing teal marbled vinyl. Hope you can see that, it's really good. This is a great album. There's 2 tracks on it which I don't like, but the rest of the tracks are fabulous rock. JJ Burnell's bass playing is classic, old in places, just classic Stranglers. Dave Greenfield's keyboard playing on it is superb. Jet Black's on it. This is the first one where Baz Warne joins the band. And I really like Baz Warne. I've seen him play with the Stranglers, and I think he's excellent. And this is the last one for Paul Roberts, the vocalist who took over from Hugh Cornwell. There's a few tracks actually where he sounds quite Hugh Cornwell-ish. It's pretty good. But this is a very strong album. If you like the Stranglers at all and you haven't got this one, get it. 2 weak tracks, but there's some crackers on it. There's one actually which is kind of a little bit out of place compared to the rest of the album, called Tucker's Grave, which is a bit of an epic, more melodic one. There was a guy called Edwin Tucker who committed suicide in the mid-18th century, and the Stranglers' manager at the time bought the house where he committed suicide, and that's where they rehearsed the album and they recorded it, I believe. So the track there called that. But stonking album, really really great rock album, superb. Recommend that one. Next one is Siouxsie and the Banshees, and this is an album which came out October last year called All Souls. This is a comp album which Siouxsie, she put all the tracks together, and it was kind of a bit of a celebration of autumn. All Souls, which is sort of a Latin American term for a celebration of the Day of the Dead. So you've got tracks on here which you'd expect, like Halloween, Fireworks, Spellbound. Excuse me. So it's a good album. You've got Robert Smith on it. You've got John McKeoch. You've got Budgie, Steve Severin, because it's a combination of singles, album tracks, and B-sides. So it goes through different eras. So you get different eras of the Banshees, but really good, strong comp, very good. Just on black vinyl. There we go. Next one up is the second album from This Mortal Coil. Their album covers, where This Mortal Coil, the 3 albums they made in the 12 inches, I think they tend to all have the face of This Mortal Coil is the French model Pallas Citron. I think I pronounced that right. And the pictures of her are absolutely stunning. And I don't think this probably won't come across very well, but the gloss and the sharpness of the photograph, it really is something wonderful. And as I say, she appears on the cover of most of their albums and 12 inches. This is a double album. There we go, side. It's all pictures of her. Beautiful artwork. This is the second album, which came out in 1986, and on 4AD, which is obviously the brainchild of Ivo Watts Russell, and who was the founder of 4AD, and he put the collective together, which is this Mortal Coil. On this one, you've got kind of members of Dead Can Dance and Cocktoes as normal. 25 tracks on this album, 13 instrumentals. The whole run time is about hour 15 minutes. It's too long. If this had been condensed to a single album, it would have been an absolute classic. But there is, in my mind, quite a lot of filler. But there are some beautiful things on it, as there always are with this Mortal Coil. There's some lovely instrumentation, some fantastic songs, some great vocals, very dream pop. Yeah, fantastic. This obviously is the one that comes after It'll End in Tears and before Blood, the third and final one. So the next one I wanted to show, folks, was the new album from Depeche Mode, Memento Mori, and this came out during April. This is the first album that the guys have released since the passing of Andy Fletcher, so it's probably quite a difficult one for them to make, and you can feel the presence of Andy Fletcher through the album actually. But Martin Gore and David Gahan, obviously just the remaining 2 now, and just having a quick look at the artwork. It's quite beautiful actually. There we go. Opens up into a triptych. Okay, so again, this is on 2 records, and I managed to pick up the red vinyl, copies. Really good album, some epic tracks on it, kind of as you'd expect from Depeche Mode, but there are some weaker tracks on it, and this is an old bugbear of mine, where you've got quite an expensive record. You've got 2 records. You've got about 3 tracks on each side. Sorry, 4. Right, sorry. Quick recap. You've got 3 sides to it with music, and each side has got 4 tracks on. That's right. And then the 4th side is an etching, which is a really good etching, but no music on it. But you've got 4 tracks each side. You've got a couple of tracks there which I personally wouldn't have put on because I just don't think they're strong enough. There's a couple of times when it slips into a bit of a George Michael mode, which is a bad thing in my mind. But there's some very, very strong tracks on this. I mean, the opening, My Cosmos Is Mine, Wagging Tongue, Ghosts Again, just some really epic tracks on the album. But if they'd have actually taken a couple of tracks off, reduced it to a 10-track album, it would have gone on 1 piece of vinyl, price would have come down a lot, so they'd have sold loads more units, and everybody probably would have been a little bit happier. But don't get me wrong, good album that I really enjoy. Some very strong songs on it, some epic songs, some great atmosphere, brilliantly produced, but couple of weaker tracks which could have been taken off to turn it into a single album, which would have been a Depeche Mode classic. So the next one I wanted to show you was an Irish band from Dublin. I'm a big fan of Fontaines DC, and who come from Dublin, and this is another band from Dublin who are kind of from the same sort of camp as the Fontaines DC. This is the Murder Capital, and I didn't know too much about these before, but this is an album, this is their 2nd album called Gigi's Recovery, and it's a quite a doomy, dark album, a gloomy atmosphere to it, very, very intense in places. But if you like Fontaines DC, then you'll like this. It's definitely a mood album where if I'm in the right mood, I think it's just fantastic. If I'm not in the right mood, it's difficult to play. But the first album, When I Have Fears, that got really, really good reviews, so I will pick that one up. One of the issues I think for me is the lead vocals, the baritone, so it's quite deep throughout, and it took a little bit of getting used to for me. But don't get me wrong, this is a good album. There's some good strong material on it. As I say, if you like a bit of doom, bit of doomy gloom atmosphere, which I do, then this is a good album.
To be like this for us, strung out on love, alive in the city, pulling triggers like the fashion was a loaded gun, my head in the crosshairs, brain of the chosen one. 10 pages of her favorite book, alright. Leave on the light, and I'm feeling the evening with her blue-eyed soul. I'm her shield, but I can't quite make it out. I can't quite make it out. I'm getting it tight, tight, tight. I'm getting it tight, tight, tight. I'm getting it tight from life.
This is another album which came out in 1983. It's their 4th album, but I haven't owned it before, either on CD or vinyl. But it's OMD, as I say, their 4th album, and it's called Dazzle Ships. And it's one of those albums, I mean, it was a commercial coloured vinyl. It was a commercial flop at the time because the preceding album was Architecture of Morality, which had done really well and had some fantastic singles off it. So there's the coloured vinyl, one grey, one blue. And when this one came out, it's very, very experimental, and it didn't do very well at all. But I think people now appreciate that it was a groundbreaking album, and it's one of those albums that it is a very clever album. I mean, Dazzle Ships, the whole concept, which Brian Robot showed this album in his OMD series, and he did a really good review of it. But it's one of those albums that very experimental, uncompromising, and the whole sort of the concepts of the Dazzle Ships, which is based on camouflage that they tried kind of at World War II, which was very successful. The cover's kind of based on that, and so the whole concept, the whole feel of it kind of works quite well. So what have we got? Half Speed Mastered at Abbey Road, 2 LP set on 180 gram blue and silver. Bonus LP features archival bonus material mixed and created by Paul Humphreys. And yeah, it's good. It's a good album. So the last piece of vinyl I'm going to show is Paul. I picked this one up second hand, and it's Malcolm McLaren and the Bootzilla Orchestra, Waltz Darling. Jeff Beck makes an appearance on this, as do a few others, and it's not a very good album at all. It's orchestral with like rock guitars and things, and I just don't think it works. Fantastic cover, Flaming June from the Victorian painter Lord Leighton, but it kind of it stops there. No, not a great album, Malcolm. Don't like that one. So from a CD point of view, during the month, I picked up the CD of the wonderful NEU. And this CD box set, Berwickshire Mike showed the vinyl box of this, which is absolutely fantastic. I'll put a link to that below. And also Mike Vinyl Spiral also showed this as well as the vinyl copy. I picked up the CD. I would have picked up the vinyl if I could have found it. But what you've got on this one is you've got the 3 NEU albums. They were born out of Kraftwerk. 2 of the guys left Kraftwerk and formed NEU in 1971. So you've got the first album, which came out about 72. You've got the second album about 73. Third album about 75. And then you've got, so they actually were going, I think, from 71 to about 75. Then they reformed 85, 86, and they made NEU 4 effectively, which was released, I think that actually didn't come out until about 95, although it was recorded in 86. You've also got a tribute album, which I'm playing in the background, which has got various artists doing NEU material. You've got a lovely picture book. You've got a stencil. Let me just quickly show you it. And as I say, I will put a link to Berwickshire Mike's unboxing because he does a fine job there. You've got the tribute album. Then you got first album, second album, third album, fourth, booklet, which is really good, and then a stencil. And the stencil in the 12-inch is really impressive, as you can imagine. So that's my part 2, folks. That is the pickups in April. Already started in May. So speak again soon.